What's up, everyone? We are back with the Showdown breakdown. Saints, Colts. Where my turds at? What's up, everyone? Like I said, we got a big one going tonight, so I'm excited to break it down for you guys. We've got the Saints at home in the Dome on the fast track, taking on a Colts team that we have a couple questions about right now. Not too many, just a little bit. In terms of if T.Y. Hilton is going to play or not, I'm leaning no, but you never know. And right now we don't know. So we have to be prepared for all eventualities tonight on the T.Y. Hilton front. So that's our one mystery. Trending in the right direction, still considered a game time decision. Rappaport reports. So no idea. Sorry. But it's going to be a very, very important component tonight because, man, he's priced pretty low relative to the other players on the slate. Same as Pascal, which is crazy because T.Y. Hilton is legitimately a stud wide receiver, and Zach Pascal is just a guy who gets a lot of chances. So let's break it down. Let's start with the basics. This game carries a 47.5 point total with the Saints pretty heavy 9-point favorites. Okay, defensively, the Colts actually sport a pretty middle of the pack run defense, coming in 20th DVOA. They actually have a decent yards allowed, pretty low, 8th overall. So not too bad, but not a great run defense, not a great pass defense. They're like middle of the road everything, the Colts. So they're definitely a team that's been attackable. They're a comfortable team in a dome. Dome, lots of domes going on here. It's the Saints home game, but lots of domes. Defensively, the Saints are pretty good against the run. Not as good against the pass, although they're 10th DVOA in both categories, but they're a little bit better yards allowed per carry, 5th overall against the run. But it's very important to note that the Saints have two very, very key linebackers that are run stoppers out for this game. Davenport and Rankins, linemen. Two of their better offensive linemen are out for this game, which means we can expect a little bit more success from the Colts running game than you might normally expect in a Saints game because they're missing some players. Now, we saw this weekend what happened. Injuries can be really big. We saw with the 49ers, they lost a couple players, and all of a sudden, that pass defense is just not as good. No Richard Sherman, Julio Jones went bananas. So we could have something like that happening here. But the most important thing to remember is we don't fade Michael Thomas in Saints home games. This is my serious face. Don't fade Michael Thomas in home games. So the question, you've got Mike Thomas as the most expensive player on the slate by far. Now, it's a very, very easy play it's an easier play, let's call it, on Fanduel, where it's just so much more affordable. What is this shit? EPL. What is this EPL crap? Fuck is EPL? What is that? I don't know what that is. Sounds like something un-American. Fuck that. Let's break down. So, Michael Thomas, not even the most expensive guy. Now, on DraftKings, on FanDuel, unfortunately, we want to favor quarterbacks over wide receivers in the MVP spot. But, on DraftKings, it becomes a much easier play just to understand, hey, Mike Thomas projects as the highest scoring player on the slate. Just taking a look at his returns, 30, 30, 30, 40, 30, 30, 30, 10, 110. Was that a Thursday nighter? Or was that the Thursday game? Of course, Thanksgiving. But in general, Michael Thomas gets you 30 points. Drew Brees, on the other hand, sometimes goes crazy. It's happened. But most of the time, he does not. So Usually, Michael Thomas has outscored Drew Brees. If you look at these returns again, 26, 21, 28. If you look at Michael Thomas, he's tended to outscore 29, just barely, but he's tended to outscore Drew Brees in these games. So Michael Thomas becomes the better overall play. Let's start with the Saints. Let's just do the Saints. Let's do the Saints. So Michael Thomas is in your lineup. You'd love to have Drew Brees in there also. Not going to be so easy to fit them. A little expensive. The one I'm the most willing to give up on is Alvin Kamara. He's just not doing it. This could be a good game for Kamara. The salary's down a little bit. I want to play him, but it's almost contrarian. If I thought he was going to be like 70% owned, I would fade his ass. Just like this motherfucker has been killing teams in the main slates for weeks. So, fadeable. I think he could have a good game at any time. He could pull a Saquon Barkley here and have 3 touchdowns, or a Dreezy. I got you guys on Dreezy this weekend. Get you, multiple touchdowns in a game, but he hasn't been doing that. So I'm not making him the priority. The most obvious, let's say, assuming that, all right, let's start with this. Assuming that salary is not an issue. I would rather have Michael Thomas than Alvin Kamara. By far. Now, if I have to force all 3 of these guys in a lineup, you just can't do it. So keep that in mind. But most of the action from Brees generally goes to Michael Thomas. We've seen weird shits, lots of turds on the Saints to talk about. But these are, of the studs trio, it's Thomas, then Brees, and then Kamara being third on the list. Now, sometimes, is it possible Kamara has a big game without Drew Brees doing well? It's possible, but Kamara really hasn't done almost anything via the run. He splits too many touches with Latavius Murray. It could happen, but it would happen on low volume. 13 carries, 11. Most of his action's been in the passing game. He's not a consistent, 10 receptions. Here you've got 6 targets, 8 targets, 9. I mean, he gets there, but 3, 7. So it's a little all over the place. And again, he continues to split touches with Latavius Murray. So it's really, really tough to count on a guy like that. Here's 7, here's 4. I mean, it's not a ton, actually, when you look at what Murray's been doing. Got some targets last week, bunch of carries, and he actually does better. Like, it's been weird variance as well for Kamara. Eventually, that's going to turn around. So I'm definitely not saying fade Kamara. No. But if you had to pick one, I'm always picking Michael Thomas. Again, game theory aside, I'm going to pick Michael Thomas. I'm probably picking Drew Brees over him. Although I can make the argument the other way. I just have a hard time seeing Thomas and Kamara going off without Brees just going crazy. All right, so let's look at some secondary pieces. Jared Cook, not a turd. Good play. Very strong. 12, 20, 11, 20, 11. I'll take either. I'll take the 11. I'll take the 20. It's good. He's a good player. It's amazing. He got to 20 fantasy points. 2 touchdowns, 2 targets. So be careful, I guess, with that, because what he did last week, 2 targets, 2 touchdowns, he got hurt, I believe, in the game. So he came out of it, but he was on fire to start that game. So don't discount the fact that he got just 2 targets last week. He was out after like the first quarter. He did all that damage in the first quarter. Did his work. So Jared Cook, a very sharp play. The Colts actually do funnel a little bit to the tight end position. They play sort of a zone defense. They're over top. It's fine for Michael Thomas. They don't double team their wide receiver. They're just not designed to stop what the Saints are going to bring. But that style of defense actually stops things like what Ted Ginn and what Traquan the Chef normally do, which are more of those streaky deep balls. Like that's tough against the Colts defense. They play the zone. They got a man over top, but these crossing patterns, these over the middle, that's what you can do against that style of defense. So the game actually favors the strength of the Saints passing attack, which is Michael Thomas kind of taking these 8-yard little receptions, just getting a lot of them, and maybe breaking one free, and also Jared Cook up the middle. So the Colts defense kind of plays to what the Saints already do well. Doesn't mean they're going to do those things. We don't know what they're going to do. It's fucking football. Who the fuck knows what somebody's going to do? You never know. I don't know. All right, let's keep down this list. Lats Murray, playable, sure. Murray is the number he puts up, 11, 12. That could be enough. That could be enough if I'm comparing him, in a good Latavius Murray game. If he got you a touchdown at some point. Now, don't go crazy, because he's not going to get a lot of touches. He's going to get a few, not a lot. Get a few, but here the comparison is like versus. You have to understand what you're comparing in salary zones, and we're comparing Murray to like Saints defense or Ginn or Traquan Smith, kickers. So he's just got to outscore those guys. He's a little more expensive. I definitely would favor a Jared Cook, for example, over Latavius Murray, but he's in play. He's going to get some looks in this game, and usually it seems like the Colts tend to, or the Saints, just weird shit happens in their showdowns. You ever talk about a team where fucking turds come out? Where my turds at was invented for the Saints. They always find a fucking turd that you never heard of to throw a touchdown to in these games. And it was Traquan Smith. It was Tommy Lee Jones or Tommy Lee Lewis. One year, it was Traquan Smith. It was Dan Arnold. I have stories of Saints showdowns, and every fucking one involves some turd or another that you hadn't heard of before that showdown. That is like crazy. But this is the team that Where My Turds At was invented for. Invented it for them. So let's find some turds. All right. So again, Colts defense, zone, safety over top, not the best for someone like Teddy Ginn Jr. if he's running those types of patterns, those deep balls that he likes to run. Last week, we saw him kind of do a little something a little bit different, and he got 6 targets, 4 receptions. So got to keep him in mind. He's going to be part of the mix here, absolutely in play, right? We already said Murray's in play a little bit. Ted Ginn Jr., certainly in play, but I'm not like loading up on this guy. He sometimes gets you 0. And his skill set does not necessarily favor the way this game would play out. He hasn't had a game that was a must-have game, and most of these performances would potentially be rivaled by the kicker. So a 9, a 5.8, these low volume, outside of this one game where he hit 100 yards, his low volume action is pretty low floor, because some, deep balls against a team that really does well against that. And also, so fairly low floor, but the ceiling is there. He could break one. That's all it takes, 1. So you get some turd exposure, but you don't go crazy with a Ted Ginn Jr. You don't load up on him. It's not the guy I want to go crazy on. Continuing down the list, and now we get some turds. Traquan, the chef, not doing a whole lot. Again, 4-3-2. We know he could break a slate open. We all have memories of Traquan, the chef, night last year, 2 years. I don't remember when it was, when he broke the slate. 2 catches, that's it. Both long touchdowns, 30 points, captain, everything. You want to take a 3% shot with this guy as your captain, you're probably going to be over the field if you do it. And if it's right, you'll win all the monies. So it's worth a shot. If he's your captain, you got to get Drew Brees in there with him. If any of these secondary guys are going off, Drew Brees is probably going off too. Josh Hill, the backup tight end, hasn't done a whole lot, but will catch a touchdown. This is Dan Arnold all over again. 3 targets, 2. 3, when Cook comes out, a little bit more. When Cook is in, a little bit less. Not my favorite Hill, but one of the Hills. Here's the better Hill. Taysom Hill. Could get you a 0. My boy, Josh DFS up north, says fade him. He's going to be too high owned for what he brings to the table. That's what he says. That's what he says in the notes. I don't make this shit up. You got fucking notes, right? You got it all broken down for you. He says, fuck Taysom Hill. Gimmick shit. Hurts the offense. Bias against Taysom Hill from DFS up north. Cognitive bias. I hate him. But here's the thing. He's 2K. He's going to get a couple carries by the goal line. It would take a miracle A miracle for him to have another big game. But it's not out of the question. Could happen. It would take a miracle. But he does get carries in the red zone. They will give him a wildcat opportunity or two to score a touchdown. So much like any other fucking turd for 2K, you've got to get some exposure here just in case. He always gets some touches. Like almost every week, he gets touches. Look at this. Touches. And they're all, a lot of times, they're by the goal line. This time he scored 15 points. He didn't even do anything. This is amazing. No stats. Sometimes he scores 15 points. He didn't even do anything. No catches. What the fuck is that? That's got to be an error. Where is that? No stats. 15 fantasy points. That's how good this guy is sometimes. No, but realistically, he's had. Oh, there it is. They messed it up somehow here. But he threw for a touchdown. Yeah. So he's thrown for a touchdown. He's run for a touchdown. Anything can happen. We're going for 5% scenarios. Will he be high? I don't know. He's cheap enough that it's worth a shot. That's a better turd than most of the ones we're going to pay down for. Taysom Hill. I don't even know if any of these other turds are viable. Like, I at this point have to look and see, like, okay, Taysom Hill, the cheapest viable. There it is. Jordan Wilkins, no. New Orleans. Josh Hill, no. Troy Kwan. That's it. All right, so that's your Saints breakdown. Top play, Michael Thomas. Drew Brees is up there. You know, to me, Kamara, if you can't afford all three, so you have to make a sacrifice. I'm going to show you how this can't be afforded. You know, you got Michael Thomas in there. You want to try Brees. That's it. There's no third. You want to go Brees. That's it. You want to go Kamara. You could still afford some things. But if Michael Thomas is beasting, you know, there's a good chance, but not a lock, but a decent shot. As you're putting this lineup together, my all Saints lineup might have to squeeze in some sort of a turd. Get a kicker going, or pick one from Ginn or Smith. Get a kicker going. The defense, Lats Murray. You could afford a lot of different things here. We can't get Drew Brees in there. If you try to get Drew Brees in here, can't get Kamara in there. One or the other. Unless you find a real serious turd. And maybe we'll find some of that on the Colts side. So let's take a look at the Colts. Tori J, Ken, I'm seeing your questions. It's going to pop them in here. Inman, yes, definitely in consideration. Just signed. Is Doyle worth a gander? Yes. Definitely. One of my favorites on the team, actually. So let's get over to the Colts. I know some people who need big performances by Doyle tonight to make the finals of their season-long fantasy. Not me. I made the finals in 2 of my 5 leagues. The other 2 I got knocked out last week, but I made the playoffs in 4 or 5 because I don't fuck around. And oh, by the way, in the DFS Army Best Ball League that we put together, Staff League, I'm in first. Of course. Because I don't fuck around. Antoine likes Doyle better than Cook. Okay. Probably lower owned. I don't know if I agree. Do I think AK-47 can get me 24 fantasy points tonight? You know, if he does, that's kind of like a contrarian approach. The dude hasn't hit 24 all year or any time recently. That doesn't mean he can't. I keep thinking he can do it. If there's ever a time to take a shot on that, it's the showdown. Make sure you have Kamara captain lineups. I mean, if you're not, you're fucking nuts. He can do it. He has it in him, but he has not shown that explosiveness yet. Let's get into the Colts. Jacoby Brissett, fine. Sure. Of course. High floor. Going to get you some points. Probably the highest floor of anybody on this entire team. You know, Brissett, pretty good for 15 no matter what happens in this game. Could get you 22, but he's good for 15. Now, if he's doing those things, who's he doing it with? He's got to get some of his guys involved. So obviously we talked about T.Y. Hilton. If he's in the game, let's just understand this. If T.Y. Hilton's in the game, Marshawn Lattimore will be on him. T.Y. has said that he's not going to play unless he's fully healthy. So unless he's fully healthy, I don't know. I believe it. I don't. Is Marshawn Lattimore a good enough corner to completely take out T.Y. Hilton? I say no. I say a healthy T.Y. Hilton is good enough to beat a corner like Marshawn Lattimore. Although, again, good coverage should moot the ceiling a little bit. Even you could beat your guy. You're not going to beat him every time. He's going to be on you. So it moots the ceiling. We saw it with Amari Cooper yesterday. I told you not to play him. You didn't listen. I said, Jalen Ramsey, you don't want to play Amari Cooper. And then you told me, fuck you, geek. You told me not to play Marquise Brown against Jalen Ramsey. Scored 2 touchdowns. So you fucking suck at analyzing DFS. Okay. That's fine. It did happen. You didn't have to say fuck you to me. Like, I'm just doing my best. You don't have to curse me. Yeah, I said Marquise Brown, not a good spot. And then against Jalen Ramsey. And then he proceeded to score 2 touchdowns. Okay. Shit happens. I don't need you to DM me your fucking hate. I just told you the guy's going up against a good corner. So what? Shit happens. Scored 2 touchdowns. Okay. That's how it goes. I don't need the hate. Same deal here. I think T.Y. Hilton's like a little bit better. So here's where it gets nuanced. Zach Pascal actually he's the kind of guy, like, he's not good enough to beat a Marshawn Lattimore probably. Like, he's just a regular wide receiver, a guy who's been doing it with opportunity. He's doing it with opportunity. He's getting a lot of passes. If he's got elite coverage on him, it's actually worse. So Zach Pascal, dangerous play, almost no matter what happens. I almost like him better. I say I do like him better if T.Y. Hilton plays. How about that? Catch me outside. I don't care. Catch me outside. Got a problem with it. I say he's better with T.Y. Hilton because he'll have the weaker coverage. He'll have the weaker coverage, right? So just a little nuance. Those people who were ripping on me for Marquise Brown, they didn't say, hey, Geek, you told us to play Jamison Crowder against the Jets, and that was fucking awesome. Dude, you fucking rock. No, they didn't mention that part. They were just like, yeah, Marquise Brown, you fucking suck. All right. I'm just busting balls. No one came at me. Somebody probably did. They always do. But it doesn't actually, I'm just busting balls. It just doesn't bother me. I don't care. All right. Where was I? So if T.Y. Hilton plays, I almost think it's better for Zach Pascal. If he doesn't, I almost think it's worth for Zach Pascal. So don't at me. That's what I'm saying. Marlon Cheeto Mack coming back, fully healthy. Again, I mentioned in the opener, the Saints are missing a couple of guys on their defensive line. Yes, they've got a good defense against the run. Yes, they stop runners like Marlon Mack in particularly well. So obviously, we're going to bear that in mind, but we've seen this Saints defense also crack. We've seen Raheem Mostert have a big game. So Mostert, Marlon Mack, same shit. Not fading him. Now, Mack is not the greatest play on DraftKings just in general, especially against a good defense, but it doesn't mean I don't want to play. He's just not going to be a priority. Like, he's not a great play on Fanduel, on DraftKings, because he doesn't catch passes. So he rarely has big DraftKings, unless he goes crazy, 174 yards and a touchdown. He gets this 28. But most of the time, he's not doing a lot. And when you look at the $7,800 price tag and you add back in Saints players, you're like, all right, well, do I want to force him in? Or am I trying to get me some, load up on these two, or, 2 of these 3 and get some Brissett in there for that floor? So, there are sacrifices that we make, and it's not like I'm going to. It's not like I'm going to fade Marlon Mack. But Marlon Mack, the Colts want to run. They're going to give it to him a lot. They want to run the football. That's the type of team they are. And again, they're a team with a great coach, the best coach in the league. Not Belichick, but top 3, top 4 coaching staff. They're very smart with their approach. So they're going to want to keep the ball out of Drew Brees' hand because are you crazy? Drew Brees at home will torch you. So they'll try to run. They're going to try to control the game that way. Keep in mind, Mac definitely in play. Captain playable, but not a priority by far. All right, continuing down the wait. I'm only looking at Colts players now. There's one more. There's some turds we got to get to. Here we go. Marcus Johnson. Last week I had called out Saints 49ers stacks. No one was on it. And one of the cool things was, wait, what the fuck's that got to do with Marcus Johnson? Brissett was going up against Tampa last week. Yeah, there it is. Okay, that was another stack. I had Brissett stacks, and I didn't know who Marcus Johnson was. Never heard of him. But when you set up a stack around a quarterback on the domination station, that guy was just popping in everything. So I wound up with way over market exposure on this guy. I'm like, who the fuck is Marcus Johnson? But I like that number 2 wide receiver. Marcus Johnson will be involved even if T.Y. Hilton is back because he's coming in as the number 2 without Hilton, who I love. And all right, if Hilton is out, I love Marcus Johnson. This will be a priority play. It would be a priority play. If T.Y. Hilton is in, then Zach Pascal's more, probably going to get a little bit of coverage. But Marcus Johnson is in play no matter what. So one of my favorite, I guess I'm calling him a turd. I don't know if he's a turd. He's a turd because you never heard of him. But Marcus Johnson, great play. Going to be involved no matter what ends up happening. Had a great week last week. Not, he's coming off a big week, so maybe there's a little bit of recency bias here that you want to be careful about in terms of ownership. But outside of that, no. Somebody's asking about Saints onslaughts. Anytime you have a team heavily favored, and there are favored heavily the Saints, then that is a possibility. But I don't think this is the spot for that. Saints defense it's good, but I mean, it's not that good. It's not like that level. Even the Ravens couldn't shut down the Jets offense completely, and you had a great game out of Jamison Crowder, and you needed it. And so, yeah, you'll get some of that. Continuing down the list, Nyheim Hines is a name to be interested in, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, again, this is a really interesting one. Pay close attention here. Yeah, Antoine's correct. This is what I said at the beginning. Saints are missing some defensive linemen, some of their best guys for this game. So that up the middle run should be more open than it usually is. Also, when you have new players coming in, when you have new players coming in, they're not gelling as well. So it's just not quite as succinct. But let me talk about Nyheim Hines, because who are we comparing him to? 3,800. That's a defense and a kicker, right? He's cheaper than even Marcus Johnson. He's not in that price range. He's in the price range of kickers and defenses. So can Nyheim Hines outscore the kicker? Can he outscore the defense? The answer is yes. Listen, he's going to it's not a lot. He usually gets a few targets each game. I think even no matter what's happening, he never really goes over a certain number, which is concerning. But if the Saints are smart, if the Colts are smart, they'll plan a little something extra for him, because again, the Saints, not the best team to run up the gut. I know about the injuries. But still not the greatest team to run up the gut against. But, if you can't do that, you should be throwing screens, shit like that. Anything can happen. A screen can go all the way. Don't load up on him. It's not a load up situation. The floor is low. 2, 5, 8. But he usually gets you a little something. And again, if you look at these numbers, they're competitive with what kickers bring. So if you just compare, 11, 14. Actually, this guy, Chase McLaughlin's been spectacular. Fuck. Like Chase McLaughlin. Look at all this. scoring a lot of points. But I mean, high-scoring games. Even in this, I don't understand what the fuck happened here. 8 points. How the hell did extra point at San Francisco? Wait, 4. These numbers don't make sense. 3 field goals. San Francisco 8. They lost 8-37, and yet he did all this. He must have been on a different team. Was he on San Francisco? I don't know what the fuck is going on here. What team he was on? Not this team. Retain his starting kicker role. A journeyman. Goes from team to team, just kicking field goals like a maniac. I'm like, why haven't I heard of this guy? Who pays attention to kickers? Here he is. He's the Jeff George of kickers. I mean, you're talking about Mack versus Hines. There's a very big, I mean, if the salaries were the same, you should absolutely be taking Mack. If you're doing Hines, you're doing it wrong. But Mack's floor is low. Okay, so let me continue because we got some time. Where are Turds at? That talk about Jack Doyle. Jack Doyle in a great spot. The only active tight end, I mean, you got Mo Alley Cox, but, he's the main guy for the Colts. He's got a big game under his belt, 11 targets. That was the first game without Ebron. Last week, big disappointment. Very disappointing. 4.7, high-scoring game. Didn't throw to him. Very disappointing. But you got to go back to Doyle. One of the pieces. I don't see him as a captain piece. It's one of those cheaper guys. Got to get him in there. Couple shares. He can have that 20-point game, catch a touchdown, catch 2 touchdowns, catch 3 touchdowns. He could be targeted 6 targets, 11 targets, 4. So he's going to be involved. And we know the Colts like the tight ends. They throw to the tight end. It's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, clearly he was on some other team like 2 weeks ago with McLaughlin because his numbers don't match, what the team was scoring those weeks. So he must have been somewhere else. I'm telling you, it's like a sailor traveling from port to port. All right, let's keep going with it. The big extra turd, the new turd. And this guy is this is the most dependent on T.Y. Hilton. If T.Y. Hilton is out, Dontrell Inman becomes very interesting. Dontrell Inman has played for the Colts in the past. He is familiar with this offense. He knows it. He was with this team. He did pretty good for some other teams. He's basically the Chase McLaughlin of wide receivers. He goes from team to team. He goes from place to place, from team to team. And I've seen him go from team to team, get signed, and do well. And you're like, what the fuck? Remember that? Nuts 200? Remember that? That wasn't that long ago. Week 4. Dontrell Inman is the kind of turd that breaks the slate. So if T.Y. Hilton is out, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get Zach Pascal. And so they don't really do 2 tight end or 3 tight end sets on the Colts. So you'll have some 2 tight end sets with Mo Alley Cox and Jack Doyle in there, and that'll just have 2 wide receivers, most likely Pascal and Marcus Johnson. Johnson operating as number 2. If they go to 3 wide, you'll see. Again, this is assuming that T.Y. Hilton is out. You'll see probably Dontrell Inman on the outside. Now, there's a couple of other super turds here at wide receiver. Doolin has at least had a target in his lifetime. 1, which is a little bit better than Chad Williams, who's got a big 0. So I'm going to give it. He got a target. Actually, all right, there you go. You have a target. So if you're making 150 and you want to get a little 1%ers in there, you can do that. But that breaks down the entirety of the 2 games. Let's look at what a cash lineup might look like. Now I'm definitely getting. First of all, I'll get my boy Mike Thomas as my captain. Now you might say, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Listen up. I want the best guy as my captain in like a cash game or in a high dollar tournament. I'm not over here trying to find a cheapie and then make the rest fit better, which could happen. You put Jared Cook in there, great, he does well. You get a little Mike Thomas, Drew Brees, Kamara, you got all the goodies in there. Get a little turd. There are ways to go. But if I'm starting off a cash lineup, I want Michael Thomas. He's the best guy. I probably want Drew Brees, but he's less of a must. He does have bad games on occasion. Not too often. He's had them. This year's been better for Brees, by the way. This year's been better because last year he was very run dependent with Ingram and Kamara and that, but that thing hasn't been working. That's not to say it doesn't. If you fade Drew Brees, you probably want both Kamara and Ingram and Lats Murray and Taysom Hill, some of these fucking turds. So if you're not going to play Drew Brees, or if you want him out of a lineup, that's where you have to think, who's scoring all the tutties? The running game. Right? Now, we like Marcus Johnson. He's in a good spot. It's cheaper than Zach Pascal. We don't know who's starting. T.Y. Hilton. Going to be tough. And by the way, here's another thing. You're going to have to set up your Dom station, run your 150. This is how we normally want to attack these games. We make our single entry. But when you're running your 150 on the Dom, whatever contest you like to attack, the mini-max, you want to attack the big one, the $9 one, put up a fucking beautiful DFS Army avatar, win that contest, get a swag bag. But you could also play the 50 cent mini-max, the nickel game on Fanduel. Whatever you're doing, do it now. Set it up, reserve the entries, and then be prepared to react no matter what happens with T.Y. Hilton. If T.Y. Hilton's playing, we got to get some exposure to T.Y. I actually, like I said, I kind of like Pascal, maybe even a little bit more without T.Y. in there. Not sure. Coverage will be easier for him. If T.Y. is out, I like Marcus Johnson more because he's going to have the better coverage. So, consider stuff like that. Now, of course, we want the GOAT kicker in our lineup. I don't even know what team he plays for, but at this point, McLaughlin's just the GOAT. Gotta have it. Then we can do something interesting. I wouldn't use a Taysom Hill, for example, in a cash game. I don't do that. But where else can I go in cash to get some cheapness? I can go Nyheim Hines. He usually gets a few targets, probably good for 6 to 8 fantasy points. I can go a kicker. I don't see Ginn or Smith being really cash viable. Although it's probably, if I have to choose, I'll choose Ginn. He does get a few more targets. Saints defense, playable. Lats Murray, playable. You can go Saints defense, Lats Murray. Okay. They'll get you a little something. Would it be nice to get to Jared Cook? Yes. But tough to fit it. Can't really do it. Had to get rid of this guy. Do a little something different like that. Maybe Saints D or Teddy Ginn. So there's a few different ways to go here. All right, let's take a look at FanDuel. Wait, hang on. I forgot to show the sheet, but obviously DFS Up North Josh does these sheets. Josh has the big balls, and he will tell you to fade strategically, and sometimes it's wrong. That's the idea. For those of you who are watching this now, right after this, I will be doing a, at some point this afternoon, I'll be doing a video with Bobby Wow, our $1 million winner. We're going to be talking about DFS Army's, the millionaire from this year who has just destroyed tournaments on occasion. We're going to be talking about taking stands and GPPs and kind of how that comes together, what it means, what happens when you're right and what happens when you're wrong, and why we think it's probably the correct way to go, even though when advising about this stuff, listen, I don't want to sit here and tell people, complete fade the chalkiest player on a slate. Like Lamar Jackson last week, on Thursday, I'm like, no, go all in because I want you guys to win and I want you to cash. And we're not playing for the 1 in 100 or 1 in 50 occasion when that works. So if I'm doing that, you're going to lose too much money and then you're never going to make it. But, there's reasons to do certain things, to fade chalk and go against the grain. That's how you win tournaments. That's not how you cash in tournaments. That's how you win tournaments. So we'll be talking about that. But for now, here's Josh. DraftKings numbers, 40, 50%. Thomas, a little bit of Breeze, a little bit of Kamara in there, a little bit of Brissett. He's playable. If you're playing Brissett, again, stack him with two different guys. If you're playing Drew Brees, I think you got to stack him with two different guys at the MVP, at the captain spot. Hilton, Shore, Pascal, these guys are all fucking turds. I don't think I'll use Lats Murray here, but these are all turdly things. I would, you want to get crazy with the turds, you can throw Marcus Johnson in the mix. Could happen. Any one of these super cheap guys, if you have them at your captain, you really can afford actually to get all of the studs in the lineup. So it makes it interesting. That's how you win a tournament. All right, let's jump over to FanDuel and note that we have these for every slate and every sport in DFS Army. Pretty much. Whatever you're into. MMA, NBA. A lot of people don't check out the sheets. I don't know why. It's hard to, I don't know. Easier to ask, I guess, in Slack, but you should be checking out these sheets. We have them for every sport. Different people. Note who writes them. It's another thing. People don't pay attention. DFS Up North makes this one. He's in Slack. You can ask him questions. I'm here too, obviously. But, I do my shit, right? I do me. All right, let's take a look. This is FanDuel exposure. We've already broken down these players, but here's what we know about FanDuel. Quarterbacks and running backs are generally going to outscore wide receivers on FanDuel. Not always, but generally. Why? Because if Drew Brees is throwing to Michael Thomas, and Michael Thomas is going beast mode, Drew Brees is probably going beast mode too. And if he throws to anyone else but Michael Thomas, already he should outscore Michael Thomas. Sometimes we've seen it where they don't throw to anybody else. Now, I'm going to show you this in real time. Let's look at Drew Brees' totals. 40, 11, bad game. 23, 21, 11, 26. So 26, 11, 21, 23, 11, 40. Now, why am I trying to memorize that? Because 24, 21, 21, 21, 21. As good as Michael Thomas's games have been, and they are spectacular. They're glorious. Glorious. Drew Brees pretty much always outscores him in these games. I can't show it simultaneous. Again, 24, 7.8. This was the 11 for Brees, 7.8. 24, this was a 40 for Brees. 21, this was a 26 for Brees. 21, 21. Hang on again. Let's look at it again. '21 was almost a tie. 3 touchdowns. 23 outscored the 21 that Michael Thomas put up. 40 obviously outscored the 26. 11 outscored the 10. Let me see. Versus Atlanta, 11 versus Arizona, 25.92. Let's see this again. Versus Atlanta, 21. Interesting. Versus Arizona, 21. So again, Brees outscores him. Here's the only game where Michael Thomas significantly outscored Drew Brees. And let's try to figure out why. Thomas does not score a touchdown. He gets 13 receptions, 152 yards. Drew Brees throws only for 287 total with no touchdowns. So all of the passing game work went to Thomas and no touchdowns. And this is what you got. So can it be done? They're very close. So I'm mixing up these two. In order for Michael Thomas to outscore Drew Brees as the MVP, it has to be something weird, like that Drew Brees almost only throws to Michael Thomas and certainly does not throw a touchdown to anybody that's not Michael Thomas. So that is the only scenario. So I'm either going this or this to start this type of a lineup. Now, already you'll note that as soon as you do that, you only got 9,500 left. Like, where are my turds at? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Let me look at the cheat sheet. Where are my turds at? We look down. Ooh, Dontrell Inman, 6,500. Taysom Hill. Oh, full fade. Trey Quizzles. That's it. There's not that much cheapness going on here. There's not that many. Teddy Ginn. You got to take a chance. Chase McLaughlin, GOAT kicker. Fucking GOAT kicker. Don't kick fucking GOAT kicking. Where's T.Y. Hilton? 11K. So let's get the GOAT kicker in here. I don't mean he kicks the goats. GOAT kicker. Get Teddy Ginn Jr. in this one. You can get Lats Murray in here. You can get the GOAT kicker in here. There you go. Still got another one you got to put in here. Going to have a hard time loading up on Tay Sizzles. You want to get him in there? Okay. Now you got 12.5 left. Now Tay Sizzles, not so great. Not so great with the floor, but playable. How about Dontrell Inman? If we get the Dontrell Inman cheat code, we might not even need GOAT kicker in here. Get a little Jacoby Brisket. High floor. Got 8K left. Naeem Hines, Teddy Ginn Jr. I mean, Traquan Smith. So it's a few different approaches. Very tough, right? Brissett, high floor. Breeze, Thomas, great. High floor. You also might have to do something where, and this is where you don't have to make crazy rules. Do not make crazy rules, because if you don't have Breeze in here, maybe you could do something different. Lats Murray. Oh, okay. Now you start to get like pretty good looking players, in your lineup that have a chance. Brissett, Doyle, Pascal, Thomas, Murray. No Breeze. Where's Breeze? I don't know. So you want to build around the understanding of the salary. Don't force things that aren't like fully needing to be forced. But again, if Michael Thomas is having the GOAT day, there's a very good chance of Drew Brees is. They're both very, very expensive. Have to keep it in mind. If Drew Brees is doing this, he has to be throwing to one other person. So you've got to find someone else that might catch a pass for a touchdown from Drew Brees. It could be Hill. It could be, where's the other Hill? Let me see where my Turds at. Hold on. Taysom. Got Inman's on the other team. Maybe Josh Hill. Man, these guys are so expensive. Troy Quizzles, catch a touchdown. Teddy Ginn, catch a touchdown. You're going to need one of those things to happen for it to work. Maybe Jared Cook, but man, tough to afford. Like my favorite trio would obviously be Jared Cook here. This is the onslaught, right? But the problem is now you've got nothing left. Now you've got nothing. All right, now all I can do, I don't even want Traquan. Now I have to use Dontrell Inman at this point, or someone like, there's nothing going on down here. Chad Williams, what are you, crazy? Deontay Harris, nothing. So, no. Him, you got to use Teddy Ginn Jr. You got to do something like this. Now, that's a lot of Saints. What am I bringing it back with? The GOAT kicker? Got to have someone. It's pretty interesting. That's your onslaught. SEO called out Traquan and Dontrell Inman. Keep it in mind. Those are the turds. Don't ignore the SEO turds. They seem to do well. Antoine says that the Colts will keep the game closer. I could see it. First of all, Antoine, I bet it. 9.5 point spread. Bet it. I could see it happening. Got to check the Beat the Bookie DFS Army crew to see if we've got any bets on this game. Betting the Road Dogs, maybe. I don't know. We'll check it out. Those guys are like hitting it like 75% for NFL this year. Huntmaster, yes, you did miss the DraftKings, but the good news is you have the ability to replay or go back on YouTube and rewatch this entire thing. I always start with DraftKings because it's just more to break down. Colts will lean on the run. If you're smart against the Saints, that's what you're going to do. You're going to try to slow down the game. You don't want to give it to Drew Brees. You don't want him throwing to Michael Thomas and tearing you up. So again, remember to be unique in showdowns, to find some uniqueness. That'll always work. Last night, like the last few, the Jets game, it was the most obvious lineup ever. I mean, I basically gave it out on the thing. Tommy's watching. He sees me having Michael Thomas and Drew Brees up top. Mustafa, you know who it is. It's Michael Thomas and Drew Brees. Those are your primaries. Could you take a chance with Kamara at low ownership? Yes. Where's my cheat sheet? Kamara, couple shares. Okay. You want to use Mac in there, a couple shares? That's fine. Same deal. Could use Mac. Touchdown scorers will outscore pass catchers most of the time. We want running backs and we want quarterbacks, with the exception of Michael Thomas, who's the fucking GOAT, high floor. But beyond that, it's usually running backs and quarterbacks. And again, usually Drew Brees on a Michael Thomas smash day will outscore Michael Thomas. So keep it in mind. But this is your group. I would add Marlon Mack in here, and that's it. And you want to take a shot with Lance Murray, 5%, something like that. Like I never mind it. If you're unique at MVP and you're right, you're going to win the Monies. You just have to give guys in there that have an actual chance of being the MVP. Like I said, if Dontrell Inman goes off for 2 touchdowns, 150 yards, well, Jacoby Brissett probably threw something to someone else. It'll probably still end up being Brissett. If Michael Thomas goes crazy, 3 touchdowns, 100. The only reason Michael Thomas is really here is because Drew Brees literally will only throw to him on occasion. There'll be times when that will happen, but it's a less likely scenario than probably even what these odds indicate. If Michael Thomas is going crazy and scoring touchdowns, it's probably Drew Brees who's having the big game, because the way they spread the football around normally, some other person will get one and he'll throw it to them. And Cook, Ginn, Smith, Josh Hill, Taysom Hill, somebody. You want to be unique and play AK-40. You want to play Kamara? Yeah, do it. Do it. He's on the list anyway. I mean, he's a guy you need to get some exposure to. Do it. But fuck Kamara. But do it. But fuck Kamara. But do it. Lance Murray. Okay. So that's your list. Turds, Inman. I'll have a lot more exposure to that if T.Y. Hilton is out, because I'm going to take a shot. I'm not throwing away my shot. I'm going to take a shot. He's cheap. You need cheapies. Traquan, sure. He's done it. He's broken these open. Just make sure you have enough exposure to these guys that in case they go off, and these are zeros if they don't, but in case they go off, you have enough that it will affect enough of your lineups and build them in such a way that you will win if they go off. Like your Breeze at the helm should have, these guys mixed in. That's why when you use the domination station here, I'm just going to show you how to set up a rule. Like if I'm on FanDuel, and I'm doing a single game, right? I got to set up my stack. So the first rule I'm making is, if Breeze is the captain, then I want no less than 2 of Thomas, Cook, Hill, not Taysom, Josh. Although Taysom, I don't know. Does he throw to him? Sometimes. Who else did we say? To Cook, Ginn. Ginn has been a little bit better than Traquan. So, I mean, if I'm choosing between Ginn and Traquan, Ginn is the top one. Traquan the chef. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's probably some other fucking turd that I forgot about. Josh Hill, is he on the list? Did I put Josh Hill in there? Jared Cook, Josh Hill, it says 1, 2, 3, 2 tight ends. Is there another turd? Yeah, I think I would include Kamara. So I want to make sure I get him with a couple of these guys. If Brissett is your captain, then the only way you're winning is if it's 2 of these guys. Because if he's not doing that, then you're not going to do enough. You're not going to do enough to get there. Hilton, Doyle, the Pascal. Who's that other dude? Our favorite, Marcus Johnson. Look how expensive Marcus Johnson is, by the way. Crazy. But doesn't matter. He's going to get targets. Got to get him. Inman, Marcus Johnson. I guess Naeem Hines. You want this kind of a rule so that those lineups are built more to suit what you're doing. Yeah, Cook at MVP. I mean, sure. The chances of Cook being the MVP is massively, massively small. Like I wouldn't have more than 3% of it because again, if Cook is doing that, Drew Brees is also throwing to Michael Thomas. So Cook would have to absorb all of the action from Brees in order to make that work, but he's throwing to Thomas too, that's for sure. Thank you, Pablo. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Real quick, I'm coming back with a sort of a breakdown with my man Bobby Wow. You guys want to kind of stick around for that? I'm going to get something to eat first, and then we'll do this. We're going to talk about GPP strategies and all kinds of cool shit. You're going to love it. So for now, I'm going to shut this down. Where my turds at? Let's get this tonight. I want to see those DFS Army avatars on top of these tournaments. As always, that's what we see every single week. You're using the fucking best tool in the industry. How would it not happen? I don't know. Let's win these showdowns. Let's do it. Well, I'll tie you guys. I don't mind. I'll share. I'm not selfish. We could share it. It's all good. Good luck tonight, guys.